You're the biggest threat to this company. Trevor slammed his fist on the conference table, sending water glasses trembling. 40 colleagues froze in their seats as our CEO's voice boomed across the quarterly review meeting. His finger jabbed the air between us like a weapon. Your department is hemorrhaging money. Your leadership is non-existent. And frankly, your continued employment is dragging us all down. The projector hummed in the silence that followed. My presentation, 3 months of market analysis, still displayed on screen behind Trevor's rigid silhouette. My throat closed as I registered what was happening. A public execution. These projections are fantasy, he continued, voice dropping to something more dangerous. The board expects results, not excuses packaged as innovation. Sweat pricked my hairline. Trevor paced now, growing more animated with each accusation. 2 years you've been pushing these fresh approaches. 2 years of declining numbers. The pattern is clear to everyone but you. My colleagues studied their notepads with sudden fascination. Amelia from marketing actually scooted her chair back, as if my failure might be contagious. Perhaps, Trevor smiled thinly. You've been promoted beyond your capabilities. I opened my mouth to defend myself when the heavy oak door swung open. Conversation died instantly as Gregory Wells, chairman of the board, surveyed the room. His silver-streaked hair and measured movements commanded attention without effort. Gregory's eyes met mine briefly before he strode directly to Trevor. He placed a hand on the CEO's shoulder, leaning to whisper something barely audible. Is that confirmed? Trevor asked, voice suddenly stripped of its confidence. Gregory nodded once. I watched color drain from Trevor's face as he glanced back at me, really seeing me for the first time, not as an obstacle to remove, but as something far more dangerous, someone who knew exactly who he was. If you're feeling that twist in your gut right now, you know something big is coming. Hit that like button and subscribe to find out what Gregory whispered that changed everything in an instant. Trust me, what happens next changed my life forever. My name is Delia Barnes, and until that morning, I was director of strategic development at a company I once believed in. People usually describe me as relentlessly optimistic, the colleague who brings homemade cookies during crunch time and remembers everyone's birthdays. My grandmother raised me on the principle that kindness costs nothing but pays dividends. I believed that. I really did. What most people missed beneath my sunshine exterior was the analytical mind that earned me top honors at business school and 3 promotions in 4 years. My ability to see patterns others missed wasn't just intuition, it was methodical observation. Trevor miscalculated when he assumed my warmth indicated weakness. 6 months before that meeting, I noticed something troubling. Every forward-thinking strategy I proposed was suddenly meeting resistance. Projects that had received preliminary approval were mysteriously defunded. My team watched, bewildered, as our initiatives were systematically dismantled. The market's shifting, Trevor would explain during leadership meetings. We need to focus on established methods with proven track records. Each time I presented data supporting my approaches, Trevor would nod politely, then redirect the conversation. After meetings, decisions would be communicated that contradicted what we'd discussed. My direct appeals were met with patronizing assurances that I didn't see the bigger picture. Meanwhile, Trevor brought in a parade of industry contacts as special advisors, men with outdated ideas who collected substantial consultation fees while contributing little beyond reinforcing Trevor's position. The company culture shifted gradually. Innovative thinking became synonymous with risk. Fear replaced creativity. My team members began requesting transfers. It's nothing personal, Lynn told me as she cleared out her desk, but I can see which way the wind's blowing. I stayed late that night, reviewing the pattern forming before me. Something wasn't adding up. Our competitors were evolving while we retreated into outdated practices. Trevor had built his reputation on being forward-thinking, yet now championed approaches he'd previously criticized. My search for answers led me to the quarterly finance reports, not the polished presentations for leadership, but the raw data. I spent weekends analyzing numbers, tracing money flows, comparing projections against outcomes. That's when I found it. Subtle discrepancies between approved budgets and actual expenditures. Nothing obvious enough to trigger automatic alerts, but together they formed a disturbing pattern. Significant sums diverted through the special advisor program Trevor had established. I needed more information before taking action. Direct confrontation would be career suicide without irrefutable evidence. So I documented everything meticulously, creating backup copies stored securely off-site. As I dug deeper, another puzzle piece emerged. The company had rejected an acquisition of a promising startup last year, a decision that baffled the entire strategy team. 3 months later, that same startup was acquired by a holding company. I traced the ownership structure through public records and discovered connections to Trevor's former college roommate. The morning before the quarterly review meeting, I received an anonymous email. Check the advisor payment structure against Cayman Registry. The sender's address disappeared when I tried replying. Following that thread revealed offshore accounts linked to shell companies with familiar naming patterns. Trevor wasn't just blocking innovation, he was systematically undermining the company while enriching himself and his network. I arrived at the quarterly review meeting with my standard presentation plus a sealed envelope containing my findings. My plan was to share my market analysis publicly, then request a private meeting with Gregory to hand over the envelope. I never got the chance. Trevor's ambush shifted everything. Now, as Gregory guided Trevor toward the exit for a private word, the room erupted in confused murmurs. My colleagues' expressions ranged from sympathy to calculation as they assessed how my downfall might impact their positions. Amelia approached first. That was totally unprofessional of Trevor, she whispered, her concern transparently self-serving. Yesterday, she'd declined my lunch invitation, claiming deadlines. If there's anything I can do. Gregory returned alone minutes later. The meeting is adjourned, he announced. Delia, a word in my office, please. The walk through silent corridors felt eternal. Each step echoed with uncertainty. Had Gregory discovered what I had, or was this simply the formal separation process after Trevor's public condemnation? Gregory's office door closed behind us with a soft click that somehow sounded final. Please sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. His expression revealed nothing. Before we begin, I said, placing the sealed envelope on his desk, you should see this. Gregory studied the envelope without opening it. I suspect I know what's in here. His eyes met mine with unexpected warmth. But first, tell me why you didn't come to me sooner. The question caught me off guard. No accusations, no dismissal, just genuine curiosity. Honestly, I wasn't sure who I could trust. I straightened my shoulders. The pattern was so systematic, I couldn't tell how far it reached. He nodded slowly. Reasonable caution. He tapped the envelope. May I? As Gregory reviewed my evidence, his expression darkened. 20 minutes passed in silence, broken only by the occasional sound of paper shifting. Finally, he closed the folder. Your analysis is thorough, he said, voice measured. But there's more you haven't uncovered yet. My heart pounded. More? Trevor's network extends beyond what you've documented. The board has been building its own case for months. He leaned forward. What puzzles me is why he targeted you so publicly today. It was uncharacteristically reckless. I received an anonymous tip yesterday, I admitted. Maybe he discovered I was investigating. Gregory's eyebrows raised. What exactly did this tip reveal? Connections between the advisor payments and Cayman accounts. That would explain it. Gregory stood, moving to the window. Trevor must have realized his safety net was unraveling. Creating a public narrative about your incompetence was likely preemptive damage control. My fingers gripped the armrests. What happens now? Officially, nothing. Yet. The board requires irrefutable evidence before confronting Trevor. He turned back to me. Unofficially, I need someone I can trust on the inside of his operation. You want me to spy on the CEO? The words felt surreal leaving my mouth. I want you to continue doing exactly what you've been doing, observing patterns others miss. Gregory's face remained impassive. Can you handle increased scrutiny from Trevor while maintaining your investigation? The question wasn't whether I could, but whether I would. The safer choice was walking away. Yet something deeper than ambition or justice pulled at me, a stubborn refusal to let Trevor destroy what we'd built. Yes, I said simply. I can. Good. From this moment, you'll report directly to me, though publicly nothing changes. He slid my envelope into his desk drawer. Trevor will intensify his efforts against you after today's interruption. Are you prepared for that? I wasn't. Not really. But I nodded anyway. Then we have work to do. Gregory's prediction proved painfully accurate. By Monday morning, my team had been reassigned to different departments. My spacious office was now occupied by one of Trevor's special advisors, while my belongings had been relocated to what had previously been a supply closet, a windowless box with barely enough room for a desk. Space reallocation, Human Resources explained when I questioned the move. Strategic departmental restructuring. My access to financial databases was revoked for security protocol updates. Meeting invitations dwindled, then stopped entirely. My emails received delayed responses or none at all. Whispers followed me through the hallways. Former colleagues averted their eyes when I approached. Lunch invitations evaporated. The isolation was calculated and effective. Trevor himself adopted a new strategy: complete dismissal. In the rare instances we occupied the same space, he looked through me as if I were invisible. The message was clear. I was already gone. 2 weeks into this silent war, Wiley from accounting approached me in the break room. At 57, Wiley had survived 3 corporate restructurings and countless leadership changes. His perpetually rumpled appearance belied a razor-sharp mind. "Nasty business, that quarterly review," he murmured, ostensibly focused on selecting a tea bag. "Don't take it personally. Trevor does this periodically, creates scapegoats to distract from underperformance." "Thanks for the perspective," I replied carefully. Wiley glanced around before continuing. "Heard you lost database access. Shame about those legacy systems requiring multiple authorization protocols. Almost like they were designed to create backdoor access points." He shuffled away before I could respond, leaving behind a small sticky note with what appeared to be a random series of characters pressed into my palm. That night, I discovered those characters granted temporary access to restricted financial archives. For 3 hours, I documented everything I could find: payment authorizations, fund transfers, consultant agreements, the picture growing clearer with each discovery. Trevor hadn't merely been blocking innovation, he'd been systematically gutting the company's future to inflate short-term profits. His special advisors served as conduits for resources flowing to external ventures that would compete directly with us once they'd siphoned enough intellectual property. I encrypted my findings and sent them through the secure channel Gregory had established. Days passed without response. Doubt crept in. What if Gregory was part of the scheme? What if I'd been manipulated into providing evidence that would later be used against me? The annual strategy summit approached. 3 days at a mountain retreat with the entire leadership team. My invitation never arrived. "Administrative oversight," Trevor's assistant explained when I inquired. "We assumed you knew your attendance wasn't required this year." The exclusion stung but proved fortunate. While the leadership team was away, I received an unexpected visitor. "Miss Barnes?" A courier appeared at my closet office, holding an overnight package. Signature required. Inside the package, a company tablet I'd never seen before, activated and loaded with proprietary software. A sticky note attached read simply, "Review before tomorrow's board meeting." Board meeting? I hadn't been notified of any board meeting. The tablet contained hundreds of files, merger proposals, acquisition targets, restructuring plans, all bearing Trevor's signature, all dated within the past month, all contradicting the strategic direction he'd publicly championed. Among them, plans to dismantle my former department entirely, spinning our projects into a new company where Trevor would hold significant equity. As I scrolled through document after document, a calendar notification appeared on screen. "Board emergency session, 9 a.m. tomorrow, your attendance required." My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Be prepared, bring everything." The boardroom felt cavernous with only 7 people present. Gregory sat at the head of the table. Beside him, 4 board members I recognized only from annual reports, plus a woman I'd never seen before whose tailored suit and watchful eyes screamed, "Legal counsel." "Delia," Gregory nodded as I entered. "Thank you for joining us." "I wasn't aware I had a choice," I replied, taking the only empty seat. "Everyone always has choices," the unknown woman said. "I'm Renata Thurlow, outside counsel retained by the board." Gregory cleared his throat. "Trevor has been delayed returning from the summit. Weather issues with his flight. Most convenient timing." Something in his tone suggested the delay wasn't entirely accidental. "This gives us approximately 3 hours." 3 hours for what exactly? I asked. "To decide the company's future," the oldest board member replied. His silver hair and weathered face gave him an almost grandfatherly appearance. "I'm Wilson, by the way. We've never properly met, though I've followed your work with interest. The situation is this," Gregory continued. "We have substantial evidence of financial impropriety involving Trevor and several of his appointed advisors. What we lack is a clear picture of how deep the corruption extends within the organization." "Which is where you come in," Renata added. "Your documentation provides context we've been missing." For the next hour, I walked them through everything I'd discovered: the diverted funds, the sabotaged innovations, the systematic dismantling of forward-thinking initiatives. Wilson interrupted periodically, with incisive questions that revealed his own investigation had been running parallel to mine. The other board members remained largely silent, their expressions impossible to read. What remains unclear, Gregory said when I finished, is Trevor's endgame. These maneuvers have damaged the company, yet he continues drawing his substantial salary and bonuses. Because he's not finished yet, I realized aloud. Everything points to a managed decline. He's positioning for a hostile takeover. The room fell silent. Explain, Renata demanded. I pulled up the acquisition documents from the tablet. These target companies create a very specific footprint in the market. Combined with our intellectual property and client relationships, which he's been quietly transferring through his advisor network, they form a complete ecosystem that could replace us entirely, while driving our valuation down to make acquisition cheaper. Wilson finished, eyes widening. Clever and utterly ruthless. Gregory's phone buzzed. His expression tightened as he read the message. Trevor's landed. He'll be here within the hour. He looked around the table. We need a decision. The youngest board member leaned forward. The evidence is compelling but circumstantial. Moving against the CEO without absolute proof could destabilize us further. Waiting guarantees we lose everything, Wilson countered. There is another option, Renata suggested, eyes finding mine. A controlled operation to secure irrefutable evidence. Gregory nodded slowly. You're suggesting we use Delia as bait. My stomach dropped. Excuse me? Not bait, Renata corrected. A strategic asset. Trevor already views you as a threat. We leverage that perception. How exactly, I asked. By giving him exactly what he wants, a chance to destroy you completely. Renata's expression remained professional, detached, while capturing everything. The plan took shape quickly. I would confront Trevor privately, with partial evidence, recording the conversation. His reaction, whether denial, threats, or attempted bribery, would provide the definitive proof the board needed. It's asking a lot, Gregory acknowledged. Perhaps too much. It's asking me to risk my career and reputation on the gamble that Trevor will incriminate himself, I clarified, while simultaneously trusting that all of you will protect me if he doesn't. Yes, Wilson admitted. That's precisely what we're asking. I studied their faces, searching for signs of manipulation or deceit. What I found instead was something unexpected: desperation. These powerful people were genuinely afraid of what Trevor had set in motion. I'll need guaranteed protection regardless of outcome, I stated, written and signed before we proceed. Renata smiled for the first time. Already drafted. She slid a document across the table. The board anticipated your conditions. As I reviewed the protection agreement, my phone buzzed with a message from Trevor's assistant. CEO requests your immediate presence in his office upon his return. Urgent matter regarding your continued employment. I showed the message to Gregory. Seems Trevor has plans of his own. Perfect timing, Renata said. This is our opportunity. Or a trap, I countered. Almost certainly both, Wilson observed. I signed the protection agreement, feeling the weight of what would come next. Gregory handed me a nearly invisible recording device, disguised as a lapel pin. Everything depends on getting him to speak freely, Renata coached. Let him believe he's winning. As I stood to leave, Wilson gripped my arm gently. Be careful, Delia. Men like Trevor don't appreciate being cornered. I nodded, heart hammering against my ribs. Neither do I. The hallway stretched before me like a gauntlet. As I made my way toward Trevor's office, each step bringing me closer to a confrontation 2 years in the making. Whatever happened next would irreversibly change everything. Trevor's assistant stood as I approached, her normally composed expression tinged with unease. He's waiting for you, she whispered, eyes darting toward the closed door. He's been unsettled since returning from the summit. The subtle warning hung between us. In the 2 years I'd worked here, I'd never seen Paige break her professional demeanor. Thanks for the heads up, I replied, adjusting the lapel pin recording device with what I hoped looked like a nervous habit rather than deliberate action. Trevor's office embodied everything about him, ostentatious yet calculated. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city skyline. Awards and photographs with influential figures lined the walls, carefully curated evidence of his importance. He didn't look up when I entered, making a show of reviewing documents. The power play was childishly transparent. Make me wait. Establish dominance. I remained standing, refusing to sit without invitation. After a full minute of silence, he finally raised his head. interesting development while I was away. His voice carried the practiced calm of someone containing rage. Security flagged unusual database access from your credentials during off hours. My pulse quickened. Wiley's access codes had been traced back to me. Nothing unusual about reviewing company financial records as part of my job, I replied. Former job, Trevor corrected, smiling thinly. Your position has been eliminated, effective immediately. I'd anticipated this, but the reality still landed like a physical blow. 2 years of work, gone with 10 words. On what grounds? I kept my voice steady. Poor performance, departmental restructuring, budget constraints. He waved dismissively. Take your pick. The paperwork allows for multiple justifications. Convenient timing, considering the quarterly projections are due next week. Projections that would show the impact of your special advisor program on our bottom line. His eyes narrowed slightly, the first crack in his composure. Careful, Delia. Unfounded accusations against executive leadership could constitute grounds for legal action. Nothing unfounded about documented financial transfers, I countered, watching his reaction. Or the interesting overlap between company resources and your personal investments. Trevor's chair scraped back as he stood. You've been under considerable stress lately. Perhaps it's affecting your judgment. My judgment is perfectly clear, as is the pattern of financial irregularities connected to your special advisors. He moved around the desk, closing the distance between us. What exactly do you think you know? This was it, the opening I needed. I took a calculated risk. I know about Meridian Holdings, I said, naming the shell company I'd discovered in the financial records. I know about the startup acquisitions routed through your college roommate. I know about the intellectual property transfers disguised as consulting contracts. With each sentence, Trevor's expression hardened. Speculation and coincidence, he dismissed, but his voice lacked conviction. The board might see it differently. The board, Trevor scoffed, regaining confidence, has more important matters than entertaining conspiracy theories from a disgruntled employee. Former employee, I corrected, throwing his words back at him. Though termination paperwork does create a convenient paper trail, the kind auditors find interesting. Something changed in his expression, calculation replacing dismissal. He stepped back, reassessing me. Let's be practical about this, he said, voice softening. Career transitions can be challenging, but they also present opportunities. Your talents are obviously wasted in corporate structure. Are you offering me a job at one of your shell companies? I asked, unable to keep the incredulity from my voice. I'm offering you a consulting opportunity, generous compensation, flexible terms. He opened a drawer, removing a folder. The specifics are outlined here. I think you'll find the financial arrangements compelling. He slid the folder across the desk. Inside, a contract offering 5 times my current salary for strategic consulting services through an offshore entity. This is a bribe, I stated flatly. This is business, he countered smoothly. You have insights I value. I'm willing to compensate accordingly. And if I decline? Trevor's artificial warmth vanished. Then you leave with nothing but a termination for cause on your record. Your choice. I picked up the contract, pretending to consider it while ensuring the recording device captured the rustling papers. And what exactly would these consulting services entail? Discretion, primarily. Your analysis skills applied to projects I designate. Nothing complex. Nothing illegal? I pressed. Nothing prosecutable, he clarified with chilling precision. Risk management is my specialty. I set the contract down. And if I were to share what I know about your risk management with others? Trevor's smile remained, but his eyes went cold. Then I'd be forced to demonstrate how thoroughly I've managed my risks, including the risk of troublesome employees with overactive imaginations. That sounds remarkably like a threat, merely an observation about consequences. He straightened his tie. Careers are fragile things, reputations even more so. Allegations of mental instability, performance issues, ethical lapses, these things follow people. Unlike financial fraud, which apparently follows you, I countered. The calculated charm disappeared entirely. You have until tomorrow morning to accept my offer. After that, you'll find yourself not only unemployed, but unemployable in this industry. I stood, matching his stare. I'll need time to review the terms. Of course, due diligence is important. His smile returned, victorious. Though I recommend against sharing the details with anyone, confidentiality is a prerequisite for our arrangement. Understood. As I turned to leave, Trevor added, one more thing. I'll need all copies of whatever evidence you believe you've collected. external drives, cloud backups, everything. I paused at the door. Is that included in the contract terms? Consider it a gesture of good faith. His expression hardened. Non-negotiable. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt like a prison gate. Paige avoided my eyes as I passed her desk. The recording device felt suddenly heavy against my chest. I'd gotten exactly what the board needed. Explicit confirmation of Trevor's scheme and an attempted bribe, but victory felt hollow. In the elevator, I pressed the button for the parking garage. Rather than returning to the boardroom, I needed air, space to think. My phone buzzed with messages from Gregory. Update, followed by, where are you? And finally, we're proceeding with next steps. Return immediately. I switched off my phone, needing just 15 minutes to process what had happened. The parking garage was deserted at this hour, my footsteps echoing against concrete as I sought my car. Rough meeting? The voice startled me. Wiley emerged from between vehicles, his rumpled appearance somehow more pronounced in the dim garage lighting. You could say that, I replied cautiously. Figured as much when security came asking about unusual system access. He moved closer, voice dropping. They're looking for the access point. Won't take long to trace it back. To me, I finished. To both of us, he corrected. Though I've been covering tracks for decades, doubt they'll find mine. Why are you telling me this? Wiley's expression softened. Because Trevor did this to my predecessor too. Blamed him for financial discrepancies. Forced him out. The pattern repeats because no one stops it. I recorded everything, I admitted, touching the lapel pin. The board is waiting for the evidence. Relief washed over his face. Good, that's good. Headlights swept the garage as a vehicle approached. A company SUV with tinted windows. It stopped nearby, and the rear door opened. Gregory emerged. There you are, he said, tension evident in his voice. We've been trying to reach you. I needed a moment, I explained, suddenly aware of how my disappearance might have appeared. We don't have moments to spare, Gregory replied. Trevor's called an emergency executive meeting. He's moving timelines forward. What does that mean? I asked. It means he's initiating contingency plans. Gregory gestured to the waiting vehicle. We need to move now. Wiley cleared his throat. She's got recording evidence. Trevor tried bribing her. Gregory's eyebrows raised. You're accounting, correct? William? Wiley, he corrected. Been here 17 years. And apparently aware of our investigation, Gregory noted with mild disapproval. Patterns? Wiley shrugged. I noticed them too. Gregory considered him briefly. We could use someone with your institutional knowledge. Are you willing to go on record? Been keeping my own records for years, Wiley replied. Just waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Then join us, Gregory directed, motioning toward the SUV. Both of you. The executive floor was transformed when we returned. Security personnel stood outside the boardroom. Inside, Renata conferred with additional lawyers I hadn't seen before. Board members spoke in hushed clusters. What's happening? I asked Gregory, as he guided us through the controlled chaos. Trevor's meeting our response with his own, Gregory explained. He's called his advisory team together. They're in the conference room down the hall, likely destroying evidence as we speak. Renata approached, hand extended for the recording device. Did you get what we need? I unpinned the device, surrendering it. Everything. Explicit bribery attempt, threats, admission of the shell company. She nodded approvingly, passing the device to a tech specialist who immediately connected it to a laptop. The room fell silent as Trevor's voice filled the space. Nothing prosecutable. Risk management is my specialty. My voice followed. And if I were to share what I know about your risk management with others? Trevor's threat played clearly. Then I'd be forced to demonstrate how thoroughly I've managed my risks, including the risk of troublesome employees with overactive imaginations. Renata stopped the playback. Perfect. This, combined with the financial documentation and Mr. Wiley's records, gives us everything needed for immediate action. Gregory addressed the room. 30 minutes until the board convenes formally. Legal team will prepare summarized evidence packets. Security is standing by for procedures once the vote concludes. Vote on what exactly? I asked. Trevor's immediate termination and criminal referral, Wilson answered, approaching our group. Though we anticipate resistance from his allies, which is why timing is critical, Gregory added. Trevor believes he has until tomorrow morning before you respond to his offer. He's unaware we have the recording already. A security officer approached, speaking quietly to Gregory. His expression darkened. Problem? Renata asked. Trevor's requesting access to the executive database archives. Claims it's for the emergency meeting preparations. He's deleting evidence, Wiley said immediately. Standard containment protocol. Deny the request, Renata directed. Can't without tipping our hand, Gregory replied. He has legitimate access as CEO. Not to everything, Wiley interjected. Some archives require dual authentication specifically to prevent executive override. I can lock down the critical sections temporarily. System maintenance excuse. Gregory nodded approval. Do it. As Wiley left with a security escort, Trevor's assistant Paige appeared at the doorway, her composed demeanor now visibly shaken. Mr. Wells, she addressed Gregory, Mr. Harmon is requesting your presence at the emergency executive session, immediately. Gregory exchanged glances with Renata. Stalling tactic? Likely, she agreed, but refusing appears suspicious. Tell him I'll be there shortly, Gregory instructed Paige. Once she left, he turned to me. This complicates matters. If I attend his meeting, I can't chair the board vote. Wilson can chair in your absence, Renata suggested. The vote must be unanimous to enact immediate measures, Wilson countered. My authority alone won't suffice for the security protocols. The room fell silent as implications settled. Without Gregory, the formal process would stall. Without immediate action, Trevor would continue destroying evidence. Unless, I said slowly, we give Trevor exactly what he's expecting. All eyes turned to me. Explain, Renata prompted. Trevor's waiting for my answer to his bribe. He's expecting me to be intimidated, desperate. I straightened my shoulders. What if I returned to his office, appearing to accept his offer? I could keep him distracted while you complete the vote. Gregory shook his head. Too risky. He's already threatened you directly, which makes my sudden capitulation believable, I argued. He'll be suspicious if I don't respond at all, especially after he's seen me in the building. Renata considered this. She has a point, and keeping Trevor occupied while we secure the evidence would be advantageous. We'd need constant communication, Gregory insisted. Security monitoring the entire interaction. Of course, I agreed. But we need to move quickly. The longer we debate, the more time Trevor has to prepare his defense. Wilson studied me carefully. You understand what you're volunteering for? Facing him alone again? I'm not doing this for the company, I clarified. I'm doing it because people like Trevor don't stop unless they're stopped. He's hurt too many people already. After brief deliberation, the plan took shape. I would return to Trevor's office, ostensibly to negotiate better terms on his bribe offer. Security would monitor through surveillance systems. Gregory would join the executive meeting to prevent Trevor from leaving prematurely. The board would vote in emergency session, and once concluded, security would enter Trevor's office with formal termination documents. Simple in theory, terrifying in execution. As I prepared to leave, Gregory gripped my shoulder. Remember, you're not alone this time. We're right behind you. I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. Just be quick about it. The walk back to Trevor's office felt simultaneously endless and too short. Each step brought me closer to confronting the man who'd spent months systematically trying to destroy me. My hands trembled slightly as I knocked on his door. Enter, his voice commanded. Trevor looked up from his computer, surprise briefly crossing his features, before settling into smug satisfaction. Delia, I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow. Some offers don't require much consideration, I replied, forcing a defeated tone into my voice. I'm pleased to hear that. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Though I'm currently preparing for an important meeting, can this wait an hour? Actually, no. I remain standing. Your offer requires adjustments if we're moving forward. Irritation flickered across his face. The terms are quite generous as presented. The financial terms, yes. The accountability terms are problematic. His eyes narrowed. Accountability? The contract places all legal liability on the consultant, me, while providing you complete deniability. I placed my copy on his desk. That arrangement won't work. Trevor leaned back, studying me. You're negotiating. Interesting. I'm protecting myself, I corrected. Something you taught me by example. A thin smile spread across his face. Very well. What modifications did you have in mind? For the next 20 minutes, I engaged him in increasingly detailed contract discussions, raising objections that required complex explanations. Each time he proposed a solution, I found another problem. The discussion moved in circles, eating precious minutes while the board vote proceeded elsewhere. Trevor's phone buzzed repeatedly. He glanced at it with growing frustration, but didn't answer. Perhaps you should take that, I suggested. Seems important. Nothing more important than finalizing our arrangement, he replied smoothly, though tension crept into his voice. Though I am curious what changed your perspective so quickly. Reality, I said simply. You made it clear what happens to people who challenge you. I have rent to pay and a career to salvage. Pragmatic, he nodded approvingly. I've always appreciated that quality in you, despite our differences. His office phone lit up. Trevor frowned, pressing the intercom. I said no interruptions, Paige. Sir, security is requesting access to your office. They say it's urgent. Trevor's expression darkened. Tell them to wait. They're insistent, sir. Something about board authorization. His eyes snapped to mine, sudden understanding dawning. You've been stalling. Before I could respond, the office door opened. Gregory entered, flanked by security personnel and Renata. Trevor Harmon, Gregory began formally. By unanimous vote of the board of directors, your employment is terminated effective immediately on grounds of financial malfeasance, breach of fiduciary duty, and corporate sabotage. Trevor stood slowly, rage building behind his carefully constructed facade. This is absurd. You have no authority. We have evidence, Renata replied, handing him a document, including your recorded attempt to bribe Miss Barnes into silence. Security will escort you from the premises. Your access to all company systems has been revoked. Trevor's face contorted as realization struck. His eyes found mine, burning with hatred. You recorded our conversation. Risk management, I replied calmly. Something I learned from you. For a moment, I thought he might lunge across the desk. Instead, he straightened his tie. One last attempt at dignity. You have no idea what you've done, he said quietly. This company won't survive without me. Actually, Gregory interjected, the board has already appointed an interim CEO. He turned to me. Someone with demonstrated integrity and strategic vision. My breath caught. What? The vote was unanimous, Gregory continued. Effective immediately, pending your acceptance. Trevor's laugh held no humor. Her? The company is doomed. The company was doomed under your leadership, Wilson stated, entering the office. We're simply correcting course. Security stepped forward. Sir, we need you to come with us now. As they escorted Trevor out, his final glare promised this wasn't over. Perhaps he was right. Legal battles likely lay ahead. But watching him walk away, stripped of power and pretense, I felt something unexpected. Not triumph, but relief. The room emptied until only Gregory and I remained. You planned this all along, I said, still processing, using me as bait while positioning me as successor. The board planned your promotion, he corrected. Your handling of this situation merely confirmed what your work already demonstrated. You see patterns others miss, and you have the courage to address them. I'm not sure I'm qualified. No one ever is, at first, Gregory smiled. But surrounded by the right team, people like Wiley, who value integrity over expediency, you will be. 3 months later, the company held its first quarterly review under my leadership. The special advisor program had been dismantled. Trevor and his associates faced criminal charges for financial fraud. More importantly, the culture was healing, innovation flourishing again as fear receded. My revenge wasn't destroying Trevor's career, though that happened. It wasn't taking his position, though I did. My true revenge was restoring what he tried to break. A company where integrity mattered, where patterns were noticed, and where people like Wiley could speak truth without fear. As the quarterly projections showed our first growth increase in 2 years, I couldn't help thinking about patterns, how they reveal themselves to those patient enough to watch, and how breaking destructive ones sometimes requires creating new ones entirely. If you've ever faced someone who tried to silence your voice or diminish your worth, remember, your greatest power isn't in fighting back, but in standing firmly in your truth. The pattern breakers among us change everything. One observation, one decision, one courageous moment at a time. If this story resonated with you, share your own pattern-breaking moment in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge is simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be all along.